This is the Business of Apps podcast, bringing you actionable insights from the leaders of the global app industry and the world's fastest growing apps. You can find more app news, data and analysis over at businessofapps.com.
Business of Apps podcast. On this show, we invite app industry professionals to cover various topics. We promise to do our best to keep it both insightful but brief. In this episode, we have Steve P. Young, founder at App Master. Steve, welcome to the Business of Apps podcast.
Art, it's like seeing an old friend. We've been talking for so long. It's good to finally be here, my friend. I literally thought we'd already done this, so I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, it's finally happening. It's great to see you, Steve. Yeah, it's been a while. A lot of things have happened between our conversations. So, before this conversation, let me set the stage. Like with many things in business, when it comes to app marketing, people either rely on data to make decisions or listen to their gut feeling. We're strongly suggesting to the former. We encourage you to be your best in keeping it rational and follow the data. Be a scientist in your field. In this episode, Steve will be making the case and showing how A/B testing reveals what app engagement, paywalls, and more. So first, before we're going to be covering this topic, specifically for people who actually have been living under the rock all these years and don't know who you are, Steve, please tell them about yourself.
All right, I've been doing a pod. So I started in the app space in 2011. I'll give you the short version. All right. Started in the app space in 2011, started doing it on the side as a side hustle. In 2013, I decided to start a podcast to do it on the side. And I was trying to learn from my heroes in the space. And so at the time I interviewed the co-founder Shazam, Chris Barton. We've become friends and stuff like that. But I interviewed anybody I could to try to learn from them to see if I can grow this side hustle into a real business. So that was May of 2013. 6 months later, I had enough of an audience who was starting to come to me for marketing help that in the beginning of 2014, I left my corporate job to do this full time. And then in around 2015-16 range, I started doing stuff on YouTube. And that's where most people find us from, is YouTube and the podcast. But that's the short story. And now we're a team of 14 and growing. And we work with Art. The way I like to say this is we work with some of the biggest apps, like literally top charts, and some of the tiniest apps in the world. And what we're trying to do is be the most affordable, most effective app marketing agency out there, because I believe that as founders, and a lot of apps that we work with are generally founders, it's one of the hardest things to do. And one of the topics that I love to cover is the 0 to 1 strategies, right? Because I think too many times you listen to podcasts and it's like, you know, we have a 6-figure marketing budget and they're all just talking to each other. It's like, in my opinion, Art, I feel like the top 1% is talking to the top 1%, and the top 99% of us that don't have that marketing budget, we're just kind of like, what are we supposed to do? Yeah. And so that's like the topics I like to cover, because a lot of times I'll get this, Art, I'm going on too long, so you stop me whenever. But a lot of times I hear from people, it's like, Steve, you only talk about like the beginning strategies, or do you only work with the tiniest apps, right? Because you only talk about strategies to get going. I'm like, that's because I feel like that's the hardest thing to do. 0 to 1 is the hardest thing to do. It's the hardest phase of any business.
Exactly. That's so true that when you have a big budget and it's makes you free in what kind of decisions you can make. You gives you way more freedom to make mistakes. And when you don't have so much dollars in your bank account, you have to be goddamn inventive to see if you can actually achieve your goals with way less money for your marketing budget. And yeah, this is the evolution in the making. You have to be really innovative to make it reality. So tell me about App Masters, how it came to be and what it is now.
Yeah. Well, started as a podcast, and then now we focus more on ASO. I mean, what we're known for is ASO, Apple search ads, and monetization strategies. And what we're trying to be better at, we feel like we have a pretty good grasp, but like obviously Facebook and TikTok and Google ads, we have a lot of great, strategies and clients that we work with on those end. But I would say the first three, when it comes to ASO monetization, Apple search ads, I don't know, Art, I want to say nobody can beat us when it comes to those three topics though.
Well, that's totally fair to say. You
I'm
guys,
biased though. I'm very biased.
it's been 10 years. If you're still in the business, it means something. Specifically means you know what you're doing. Like the field is really competitive and quite often unforgiving if you're making mistakes, which is literally not learning, just believing that you've learned every single trick and do not try to be, open-minded, listen carefully what's happening. The day you stop doing it, sorry, you're going to be going down as time goes by. Nothing is static. All right, let's jump on the topic of this conversation, and we're going to start with this thing. So let's talk about app engagement.
Yeah.
Obviously, A/B testing is one of the tools you've been using, and I wonder what works, what does not work for app engagement when you're looking through the prism of A/B testing.
Art, we're gonna do something different. You're allowing me the permission to do this video. So if you guys want to check it out, we're gonna post this video on the Business of Apps
Yep.
blog post page. But Art, would you mind letting me share my screen and I'll give you some data?
Sure thing. Let's do this.
All right, Art. So I want to get back to what you said earlier, and we're with the gut and data. A part of it is, sometimes for me, I like to go with gut first, unless I have data, right? Sometimes that's how I come up with like creative strategies. And then like, for example, and I'll get to some of the things that we're going to talk about in a little bit too, but like with long paywalls, I had a gut feeling 2019 that it would outperform shorter paywalls, and the data proved out. And so, like you said, I completely agree with you. As marketers, we shouldn't think of ourselves. We should think of ourselves as scientists. I mean, frankly, in life, just think about us as scientists. Like everything's an experiment. We have a hypothesis, which may come from our gut, but we're going to test it out, and then we're going to let data decide. So, to engage or not to engage, look, let me go through all these slides. I went to the first one. I think you're talking about this. The first thing is during the onboarding process, most people who subscribe to your app, they're going to subscribe during the onboarding process. And so we do have data now that says if you engage users, ask them simple questions. And I have a visual right here where we have Headway that's asking, what are your goals for coming into this app? What areas would you like to elevate? And then there's a bunch more questions, and then show the paywall. Versus what Calm is doing, it's just saying, hey, social proof, enjoy our library, benefits, 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 and then paywall. We're actually seeing that by engaging with people, you will increase conversions. Now, I had Yeva from Headway, the product manager, on, and she talked about this too. And we talked about the long onboarding that Headway has. And she says, when you have a longer onboarding, we've actually seen our clients from their data that longer onboardings actually lead to higher conversions. Yes, there'll be more drop-offs, but the people actually make it all the way through will actually subscribe. And the people who drop out, they were never probably going to subscribe anyways. And what Yeva said, what I really loved was when you engage with your audience, they think that you are customizing the app for you, right? And so that is the added benefit. And Art, before I even knew about this strategy, when I saw an app ask me questions, I immediately thought as an end user, are they going to personalize this for me? And so I thought the same thing. And so it's the psychological trigger. And the one more thing I'll add is before your paywall, have ways where you're showing apps, you're showing the user that you are indeed customizing their experience here. And I'll show you this visual from Headway really quick too. So you can see they're asking a lot of questions, but here I want to point this out. What they do is they say, we are crafting your learning experience. And guess what's going to happen next? All right, you're going to get the paywall, right?
Yeah.
So this screen, I asked the client, I was like, hey, did you A/B test versus not having this little animation before the paywall versus just showing the paywall? And he saw a 9% increase in conversions just by having a screen in between all your questions that say, hey, we are customizing. It's like this little spinning wheel that I like to say, all right. And so even if that spinning wheel does nothing, you definitely want to have it because, and what I love about Headways is during that spinning wheel, I'll see bland ones art where it literally is a spinning wheel. You might as well put like a sandcastle in there or one
Yeah.
of those sand timers, but have some social proof because really you're giving the users a bit of a break anyways. So have some social proof. And Headway has enjoyed by 12 million plus users. Sometimes I'll see ratings, average app ratings, or testimonials. So when you have that spinning wheel, definitely have something that says we are crafting your learning experience or we're customizing your plan, and then some social proof at the bottom, and the middle can be the spinning wheel. And then hit them with the paywall.
Yeah, these are kind of you may think of this as small cues, small things to do, but it's actually not. People will appreciate it, number one, because they don't see it often. It's not like every app they install on their phones do the same thing, do this a bit of a customization. And when they see it's one more case of a human touch. Even just on a one one screen on their phone, it will be enough to tilt their opinion towards loving your app more and actually becoming your regular user, your
Yeah.
subscriber. Now, in this day and age, most people heard about two walls. I bet it's the Great Wall of China and the paywall. So it's like you open New York Times and you see that you can read like 10 articles a month free, or if you become a paying subscriber, you get to read as much as you want. The same thing, well, not the same, but again, you're encountering paywall with Tinder. You start using the app, and you realize that the most engaging part, the kind of communication, is behind the paywall. You have to become the paying subscriber, and the story goes on and on. Steve, what does your A/B test tell you about? Is it a good idea to introduce the paywall on onboarding?
Yeah, definitely. Right. A friend of mine, Dave Chu, he told me this strategy at an event that I hosted in San Francisco in 2018. Art. This is so long ago. And he was like, guys, I tested this. Paywall and onboarding sees 2 times more conversions than paywall not. And I was like, really? Isn't it too soon? Don't you want to get the user to, use the app a little bit and, fall in love with it? But he's like, no, we tested this. And so it is, if you're not doing this, if you do nothing else after this podcast interview, besides showing love to Art on the podcast apps on Apple and leaving it a great rating, and maybe dropping my name, make sure your paywall is during the onboarding process. The stats say that anywhere from 60 to 80% of all the people who buy in your app will buy before they even use your app, meaning they will buy during the onboarding process. And the other, you want to guess, Art, where the number 2 purchase spot is?
I don't even have a guess. I have no idea.
All right. I'm going to give you a buzzer on that one. All right. But what I would, the number 2 spot is your main screen or your homepage of your app. And so 80 to 90% of all the people who buy will buy during the onboarding process or the homepage of your app. So on the homepage or the main screen of your app, make sure there's a way for users to upgrade to your app. And one of our clients, we A/B tested this copy because he just had pro, right? Like a button that just said pro. And I was like, dude, I don't think that's the worst copy. And so we tested unlock pro features and unlock everything. Art, which one do you think won? Which one do you think led to more conversions?
I guess the latter, everything.
Unlock everything? I thought so
Yeah.
too. We were both wrong. So unlock everything actually had more click-through rates, but unlock pro features actually led to higher conversions, actual subscribers. So again, it's worth A/B testing, but we do believe that unlock something is the best to go for that too. And so when we A/B tested that on the homepage of this app screen, we saw an increase in conversions instead of just being like, go pro or unlock premium. Nobody wants that.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I guess the more complicated, the more packed with things to take care of life, we leave, the more we kind of moving towards one screen, one page, one place where we have to take an action. In the homepage, like we grew up with the internet where websites were simple. It was just one page where every bit of action was on that page. And to this day, we prefer that the important decisions we should make to start paying for some products should be on that page. No, just playing around and looking for a place to pay. It should be right on the homepage. That makes sense, and I think I would see why people buying when they're being introduced with the paywall right away is because when if they're serious, if they want to use this product, they're already ready to spend some bucks on that thing right away. If they're not, you're not gonna make them agree. It's not gonna work. So it's counterintuitive to me, but now as then thinking about it as you're describing, I see why it may work. Now,
It definitely does. It is counterintuitive, and I think a lot of the app space, and this is why I love it so much. It's always changing, and then it's a lot of it's very counterintuitive. But an app download isn't like a banner click; it
yeah,
is more of an intent. There's already an intent to download an app, right? Like, not a lot of people are looking to download more apps in this day and age.
for sure, and hence that's why you have to do A/B testing. Otherwise, you would be just following your gut, and you will be wrong. See?
Yes.
So now switching to discounts or app subscriptions.
Yep.
Boy, we all pay app subscriptions, right? Apple TV, Hulu, Amazon Prime, and etc. So you every end of the month you can see this bill for how many subscriptions you're paying. You're thinking perhaps I just should cut them off and just be happy it was just two or three of those. And what's the optimal strategy? What does A/B testing reveal to you in this domain when it comes to discounts for app subscriptions? How does it work?
Yeah, I think this. So back to, and I'm going to share some visuals. Back to the stats, right? I started thinking about this. So Dave, thank you for the onboarding trick. But I started thinking about the percentage, right? Like we had numbers, 60, 80%. So shout out to, I stand on the shoulder of giants, Art. Like, I'm very honored that we have this community, this YouTube following where people share a lot of great content back with us as well. And so somebody measured it. It's like 60 to 80% buy during the
Mhm.
onboarding. So I started thinking, shouldn't you discount? Because I know discounting works, right? Discounting brings people back. And I had other strategies that I knew where we were like secretly hiding some discounts elsewhere that were driving revenues. And so I said, let's just make it simple. And if they say no to your first paywall, show them a discount. And we saw that that definitely drove more conversions, Art. And one of our apps we just launched in November of 2023, and using some of our ASO strategies, we're able to make $1,000 within the first month. And you will see, if you look at our numbers, 500 came from the initial full price, $500, another 500 came from the discounted price, because we're doing the exact same thing. If you say no to us the first time, we're going to offer you a 50% discount, a one-time offer, and people are buying that. And so it does work. It will instantly increase revenues if you're not doing that already. Now, Apple said, hey, maybe you're discounting too early. Depends on your reviewer. If that is the case, you might want to do what Headway does, which, if you see the visuals on their homepage, they say gift for you. If you tap on that little button, it gives you a 50% discount on Headway. And Yeva from Headway said, look, if you're not discounting, you're just leaving money on the table. And I said, Yeva, thank you for saying that, because I completely agree with you. And if you look at Headway, they're doing tons of discounting. So for Headway, most of their apps or most of their reads, it's sort of like Blinkist, right? You get a summary of a book.
Yeah.
They have a free daily read, but everything else is locked. So if I pick a locked book and I hit listen or read, go to the YouTube video, you'll see the visuals. I get
Yeah.
hit with the paywall. If I say no to this paywall, I then get hit with another discount that gives me 70% off this. Why I love this flow is because I already showed you intent. I said, hey, I picked out the book that I want to start off with. I said no to that paywall. I'll bet you most people are just buying here, which is the normal full price. But the people that said no, well, they get the 70% off, and it's down funnel. So I really like this strategy. I think Headway's doing an amazing job in terms of monetization. They've just been pushing, pushing, pushing. And, now that we have the data that says it works, I'm like, go be aggressive. Like, a lot of times people say, well, the LTV, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, look, I think about the one data point that we do have is one of our clients, 1 million monthly active users, probably more at this point, 5 million monthly, organic downloads. And it's just like when they finally introduced the paywall during the onboarding process, Art, guess what happened? They made more money and their retention increased as well.
Yeah.
And that was their main goal, was to increase retention. And so, look, I think for subscription apps, monetization drives retention. For games, obviously, is reverse. Retention drives monetization. But for subscription, that's why I favor discounting or doing all the little tactics to help your users subscribe to a product that you built. Now, as long as you're not scamming users, here's what I think. You built a great app. You put your heart and energy into it. You might as well get paid for that. And when you get paid for it, users are more likely to invest in your product and hopefully see the benefits of using your product as well.
No, this discount thing is really something. Think about it. People like to hangling in the market for a price when they're buying stuff in person. Why then shouldn't be following the same path when they are being introduced to a digital product? And if you're not providing them the same opportunity, you're leaving just money on the table, just like Steve says. That it's just as simple as that. It's the same people, the same strategy works, and you shouldn't just reject them if that bill can be like, just like I said at the beginning of this question, they may do this calculation in their brain, how much money I'm spending on a monthly basis. Okay, it's going to be too much. And if you're dropping the price, the person agrees because, okay, now it works for me. And otherwise, he's just going to walk away. You're going to lose him or her. It's just not a smart strategy. Like, it's just this. Now, let's polish a little bit what we've said in the previous couple questions by talking about significance of customization. So, where app user experience do you see is the most important to get it right?
Where in the customization? So unpack that for me. What do you
Well,
mean by this?
I actually mean like what like customization as the process of working on the app user experience. Like in what specific parts of the app do we see it's important? Like
Yep. Yeah.
where it's
So,
essential.
and I will point to Headway again. So free exposure for them. And Yeva gave me this great insight on our YouTube stream too. So I'm gonna pull this up. But here's a couple of ways that they do it. And so when you do, I said, even if you don't customize the experience, show them the little spinning wheel. But what you can do is obviously, Art, if they are saying, hey, I'm more interested in right here. So what areas during Headway's onboarding, what areas would you like to elevate? If I'm saying motivation and time management, well, guess what? When I get to the homepage of your app, maybe show motivation, all that stuff in there. Also, when during that, like I love this little slide, the end of the onboarding notification where they're like, in the digital or online marketing, digital product space, people who sell courses, essentially, there's this thing called a yes ladder. And, if you've been on a webinar where they're trying to sell you a course or something afterwards, they will try to get you to say yes before they hit you with the paywall. And so this is the psychology behind what Headway's doing here. Do you agree with the statement below? Now, obviously I can say no, but yes, right? Like I believe in learning and personal growth. Yes, here. And then they're showing me, because I already told them the type of books I like, they're showing me these type of books. Does this book seem interesting? And so now they have all this data to sort of customize the entire experience for them. The other thing that Yeva told me was, let me see if I can find a good visual. They actually created custom book covers rather than reusing the book covers of the actual books. So they created custom ones. And when they did that, they saw really great success in that too. And so does that answer? Is
Yeah,
this what you're getting at with the customization side of
this
things?
is what I want to get from you to highlight for our listeners where customization really shines in the like where it matters to like to make the most of it, like to make the right impression on the user base and persuade people to become loyal customers.
Yeah.
Now, next up is one of those marketing terms that depends how juvenile you are. It can be a subject for your party jokes or serious discussion with your peers. Hard and soft paywall. Tell me about these. What's the
All
difference?
right. Well, I didn't come up
And
with that
what
term.
ways do you apply each?
Yeah. Vitali came up with this term from Adaptee, and I was like talking to him, and I said, "Hey, Vitali, like, how would you launch a brand new app?" And he said, I would do some ASO. I forget what the exact answer was, but I'll
Mhm.
do some ASO. So I'm gonna throw that in there as me. And then I would launch with a hard paywall. And I was like, what the heck is a hard paywall? And it's just like, it's just a paywall without an X. So you either have to say yes or get the heck out. And so we tested this with one of our apps, making about $8,000 to $10,000 a month. And my technical co-founder, he decided to launch as a hard paywall. And I was like, dude, what? Why? This is before talking to Vitaly, by the way. I was like, why? That's so scammy. No, like, I don't want to do that. But he's like, well, we built it like that. And I was like, okay, fine. Forget the gut. Like you said, Art, let's see what the data says. And so when we launched to the app went from making about $1,000 to $2,000 a month instantly to $8,000 to $10,000 a month. No additional downloads. We did increase the price and put some onboarding screens and all that stuff to it, but we saw a 13% conversion rate on this paywall. When we had to add the X in there, we dropped in sales. And so I'll show you this slide. You can see when we launched, we bought the app, and so it was making 1 to 2,000 with just a $33 in-app purchase. We then made it in $60 a year product without any new features, and then we were able to like almost 10x the revenues. When we had to put the X, you can see the revenues dropped in there. So we decided not remove the X and put the hard paywall back in. So the data says hard paywalls do perform better. And another app that we're working with now, he's like, Steve, I ended up deciding to just try the hard paywall. He's seen 3 times more revenues on a hard paywall too. Because again, Art, like kind of what we talked about before, a app download is already showing you intent. They looked at your screenshots, they look at your ratings, they compared you to other things. And so it's almost like shopping on Amazon and they added to cart already, right? Like that's sort of the premise. And so it's like all you got to do is nudge them a little bit over. Now, for some people who don't want to do that, that's fine. You don't have to do a hard paywall because long term, it might not be beneficial for you. But I think in the short term, when you're just going from 0 to 1, it is a strategy that ultimately you want to test because the data proves that it does drive more downloads. And because I get this question a lot, Art, it doesn't hurt your ratings as much. I've seen a lot of apps with hard paywalls that have really great, like 4.8, 4.9 average ratings. So don't sleep on it.
Yeah, this is like great case when you should check the data, check the numbers. It's yet another example when you would think, well, I'm just gonna scare away people who will not be able to skip their screen and they will have to pay, right? They will just push them away. But check the data. That's not happening. Probably, I'm just trying to think of like the caveat, like being a devil's advocate for a second. Probably they may be the case for some app categories, for some specific app, where you wouldn't do this. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to guess what would be like even if the people have as an intent, um, and still you would scare him away. But I'm hard pressed to come up with an example.
I got
Uh,
you. I got a few. I got a few for you. Okay. So if you don't want to do a hard paywall, let's say if you got a very simple app, okay, hard paywall is probably the best way to go. But like meditation app or a fitness app, you might want to
yeah.
not do a hard paywall because and these are the examples I have. Calm. They don't have a hard paywall, but most of their content is locked. So a friend of mine, shout out to you, Rich, he
Yeah.
A/B tested this. He's like, Steve, I don't want. He did the hard paywall. He saw an increase in conversions. And then he's like, Steve, I don't really like it. But I was like, okay, fine, Rich, but make sure you lock up most of the content, right? So that they could see the breadth of content, the wide variety of content that you have, but most of it's locked. And so Headway, only has one daily read. Calm, I challenge you to go find they do have some free meditation, but I challenge you to go find it. They do have it, and I'll show you where. But you can do, when I say a hard paywall, I go, if you want to do stiff, there's no X, right? Like it is just that. If you want to do semi-hard, well, there's this lingo, I think it's called Lingo. But anyways, this is a kids app. It looks like a hard paywall. There's no X. But if you hit start my free trial and then there's view all my plans, if you hit view all my plans, that's where you get to see maybe later, which allows you to access the app for free without, buying into it. So I thought that was a nice example of someone that is testing a hard paywall, but like you can find a way to get out of it if you really wanted to. So that's what this app is. And then Zero, I thought this was a great example too. Zero, intermittent fasting app that I love, absolutely love using them, been using them for years now. And they have a hard paywall, but guess what, Art? They do ask for push notifications, so that's one of the best practices too. 5 minutes after I said no to this hard paywall, they hit me with the push notification that said, hey, you can start using Zero for free. No subscription required. Just open the app. So when I tapped on that notification, guess what magically appeared? The X on their paywall. So I tapped on it. I see the paywall. There's an X on it. I can hit X and then I can start using the app for free. I thought these were two good examples of apps that were blending a hard paywall, but still allowing free access to the app.
That's a nice thinking. Again, brings me back to my point how well you should know what may happen in the heads of your customers when they're interacting with your app, given what the app is about, what they may think, what they may expect. And if you can actually catch them, just like you've shown with this push notification, when they're still thinking, just, it took a few minutes between the moment they had to make this decision and the moment when they see the notification telling them, okay, let's go back, let's take another take, don't walk away. That's a good spin. Now, let's talk about the plans. We all love to make plans, especially from holidays, but let's just think business wise.
Yeah.
Plans you're choosing when you're buying a product. So, what is the thinking how many plans app subscription should have?
Yeah. So again, let's go to the data. So how many plans should you have? Now, I have this A/B test. I generally love playing games. Art actually wanted to be a game show host. So I try to bring in as many aspects of being a game show host as possible. Okay, Art, do you want to guess A or B? You might already know the answer. Which one won? So for those who are just listening, I have two paywalls, one with $2 monthly and $10 a year, one where it was just $10 a year. So B is the $10 a year, and that's the only option. And A has the two options with the monthly and yearly. Which one do you think won, Art?
Probably B.
B. Art, you're not winning anything today, okay? No, it's actually A. So here's what happened. This is one of our clients, one of our big clients. So I had to find a Figma file that sort of had all this stuff. But essentially, they had a $10 a year product. I love that product, by the way, too. And I subscribed. They saw that almost like 90% of the people were buying that $10 a year product. And so they're like, let's just make this cleaner and let's remove the monthly from the product. And then when we looked at the App Store Connect sales, it took a nosedive, Art, and completely tanked their sales. Because when you see, it's, with pricing, the way I believe is in the rule of threes, right? Because you want to be able to easily compare. Now, when I see $10 with a $2 monthly, I know instantly $10 is super cheap. When I see $10 by itself with nothing else to compare it for, I feel like it's super expensive because it's 0 or 10. I prefer 0 or 2 or 10. I'm like, oh, I'll prefer 10 then, right? Because I already like the app. So I believe in the rule of threes. Adapty had this combination. I know a lot of people had this data. Superwall, Jake had this data too. I like having a couple of different data sources before I actually believe, but they found that 3 products, 3 plans had the highest conversion. Now, Jake from Superwall said this to me, but he's like, pay attention to your LTV. So if, people are buying the plan you don't want them to buy, be careful with the 3 plans. But I say, Jake, I'll do you one better. Here's how I like to format the rule of threes. So before I had the data, it was gut. Now I had the data, it becomes not gut, knowledge. How about that? It becomes history. All right. So here's how I like to do it. I have the cheap plan. Generally, it's going to be your monthly plan because it's the lowest LTV plan out of all of it. Even weekly has a higher LTV than monthly. So I usually have a cheap plan that's monthly. Now, the highest LTV, which is going to be either your weekly or yearly, you want that to be your ideal plan so that people buy that. And so for our app, that's where the trial is. And so if you pick monthly, no trial. Okay. And then lastly, I like to have a decoy one. So if you're not watching the video, I recommend you go checking that out because Art and I are very handsome guys. But you have the yearly, and then you have the 6 month that's just $10 less than the yearly, and then you have the monthly. So when you look at this paywall, you see where the best value is. And that's how I like to do my pricing. Some people like to be fair. I'm like, don't be fair, have a decoy. And if you go, I believe in this so much that if you go check out our website at masters.com, then you will see some of this decoy pricing happening on our website because I know it works. I wrote a blog post back in 2013. I think it might have been 12 actually, Art, but where it was this case study was actually in the Hacking Growth book written by Sean Ellis and Morgan Brown. But we had this decoy and we saw not only an increase, 233% increase in conversions, but we actually had the yearly plan went from 40% of people who bought it to over 80 something percent, 86% of the people bought the yearly. So it's sort of like having a plan that shows where the value is that gets people to buy, right? Like it's kind of like McDonald's. You want to upgrade to a large for just $1 more. It's like, all right, give me the freaking large.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I McDonald's didn't come to my mind, but I guess the plans for my mobile provider, which I used a couple years ago, I do remember the same strategy. It's I think when it comes to making plans, people kind of look up for the textbook. Okay, what's the right strategy for the right number of plans you should have to meet your bottom line, to increase the revenue, and how does it work? Like what should be like? I love exactly your strategy of the rule of three. It does make sense. We make these decisions in our life when we're not presented with a price tag, but we're just not conscious of that decision. But when you're staring at the screen and you're deciding, okay, which plan will be working for me, you're going to be following the same strategy Steve just described it for you.
Yay.
Now, final thing on the list will be call to action. So I like to think of call to action for our species history. Like the first case most likely was during the hunt. I don't think it was the kind of unarticulated growl. Most likely it would be just a gesture. Get it? But going back to the present day, what are the call to action these days we're being staring at? Most likely it's like when you're subscribing to a service, you're looking like I don't know, vote, click, download, subscribe, buy, purchase, leave your comment. So, Steve, what are call to actions do really work?
Yeah. So do not on your paywall put subscribe. I've seen that a couple of times, or GoPro. Definitely you want to put what we've seen work better than subscribe is start free trial, or better yet, just continue. Tends to work pretty well too. Just continue, right? Obviously you're just going. Things in motion, stay in motion, right? All right. So I'll give you a couple of different examples too on the homepage stuff. So A has this star on the homepage that takes them to the paywall. B has a crown. Art, you want to guess which one won? The star or the crown?
Crown.
Yeah. So my client had the star. He was A/B testing this actually. And I was like, dude, I'm not sure, but I've always seen crown. See, that's how I like to say it. If I feel confident, I will tell you, definitely do this. But if I don't, I will tell you. And so I told the client, I'm not sure if this is going to work, but I've always seen crown. and he saw a 57% increase in click-through rates. And here's the data. He allowed me to share this. The star plus upgrade had the second worst. Star by itself, upgrade text by itself had a 7%. So that was the absolute worst. Star and upgrade was a little bit better. Star by itself, a little bit better than that. But crown was the best across all the board. And so kind of like what we earlier talked about with, unlock everything versus, you know, unlock pro features, unlock all this stuff. You're going to have to A/B test. Another Blue Throne, Don, shared this case study where he was A/B testing. It used to say get Spotista stats plus for €6. And then he said get all features, unlock plus, unlock everything, unlock lifetime insights. Unlock lifetime insights brought in a 12.5% increase in conversions. So really, really A/B test. Obviously, unlock blank is going to be the best for you. And generally, you can look at these stats, but unlock blank was the best performing, followed by, let's explore stats and then get all features too. So we all love this unlock stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah. I see what really works. Okay, now to wrap it up,
Let's
what
wrap it up.
takeaways would you? Yeah, yeah, we're finally wrapping up. What takeaways do you have for folks to leave this conversation with?
Unlock. If you want to unlock growth, Art, then definitely A/B test, right? Like I think in the beginning, listening to a podcast, you're already ahead of the curve. And then test your hypotheses. Like don't just go off of gut and opinion, like test that hypotheses. Again, I've been wrong a lot of times too, versus right, because we're always testing. We have this gut call, we test it, and then we let data kind of decide which one should win. And Art, the saying I love the most, and it's actually I just found out the AOL founder said this, but my old boss said this to me. It's like, hey Steve, if you want to try something, come with data. Because if we're going with opinions, we're going with mine because I'm the boss. And so for me, I always took that to heart where like I love data, I love A/B testing different things and trying some of the tiniest little changes. Art makes such a huge difference. Like just changing the button from subscribe to continue now, continue or start free trial, boom, increase. One other thing I'll say is, we added the word free on the paywall to the last two bullet points of a paywall. So just imagine like it's a call blocking app and then it has spam text blocking and then like ad blocking capabilities too. I added the word free in front of those last two bullet points. We saw an 11% increase in conversions. Same paywall, just that one word brought in 11% more conversions. So it's these tiny little tests that I like to start off with because I think too many people try to change too many variables at once. And then if it works, great. You're like, great, it all worked. But if it doesn't work, you have no idea why it did not work. So I just changed one variable at a time. It's called an A/B test. It's not like A and 3. I don't know what's a better analogy, right? It's
Right.
A/B, like just one variable. It's not A and then numbers. It's not apples and oranges. It's a orange and a blue orange. I don't know. All right, this is why you went too long with me. I'm going delirious. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore.
Yeah. So yeah, again, bringing back to first point I made, be a scientist, because A/B testing, it's the method that's been used in so many branches of science. And just think about it. For a moment, I would be a scientist. It should be sounding great for you, right? And there's always these compounding variables. If you're having them in your A/B testing, you'll always be getting the data. You will believing that's the accurate data, but that will be leading you to nowhere because that will be false. And that will be just like, again, coming back to your gut feeling. So yeah, just make sure you're changing one thing at a time. That's really important. All right. Now I have this question which I like to ask folks who are, for many years in the industry.
Yeah.
They always have something to say because there's always something in their mind they can speak out. Steve, what would you like to change about this industry the most, the app industry?
Look, I love the app industry. I will couch it with that. I love the app industry. And so I guess because it's always changing and for me, I like things that change because it keeps me interested. Obviously, maybe just Apple and Google taking less of our cut, like 30 seems it's pretty steep, but no, thank you guys for helping all these app developers make a living with apps. But let's just put that aside. All right, I think the one thing that I strive to achieve through our content is the 0 to 1 strategies. I think a lot of times, especially these bigger companies, they tend to talk to each other and then you forget about everybody else that doesn't know how to do anything. Like, for example, Facebook ads. When you talk about Facebook ads, everybody talks about creatives, but it's like, but if I don't have, like $10,000 to spend on this and I only have 1,000, like how else should I do this? What else should I be thinking about? And so what is that campaign structure? Like I like to live in the weeds and like really break down, the For Dummies series in a way, because that's who I am. I'm like, that's how I started. I want that breakdown. I want to watch a video where I can just follow along and kind of do what the person is doing at the same time. So let's start really breaking it down rather than just saying, and one other thing, Art, maybe we stop using CAC. I mean, I think it's just, I don't like the acronym. It's too close. All right. There could be some slippage.
Right. Gotcha, Steve. All right. Before I let you go, very, very final question. How can people get in touch with you and get more information about what you do?
Pretty simple. Just go to appmasters.com or just check out our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/appmasters.
Terrific. Steve, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was great, unusual, but awesome. Thank you for spending this time with us. Thank you, Steve. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Art.
And that was Steve P. Young, founder at App Masters. To listen to more episodes, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. Just search for Business of Apps, and you will find us easily. Remember, we release episodes on Mondays, so subscribe, and you'll be able to get new episodes on this podcast on your smartphone, tablet, or computer as soon as we release them. And please don't forget to leave us a review or comment on iTunes. It is highly appreciated. And all episodes will also be available on businessofapps.com. Thank you for listening. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Business of Apps podcast. For more, head on over to businessofapps.com.